What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So we have some breaking news. Janet Mills, the governor in Maine, if you guys didn't know, she was running for Senate. She has now dropped out. Let me show you the latest headline here. We're going to talk a little bit about this and the ramifications as a result of this. So it says here, Maine Governor Janet Mills drops U.S. Senate bid before Democratic primary. And I can't say that I'm shocked that this is the situation, because just looking at the polling, and we'll take a look at the polling in this video, looking at the polling, she just didn't have it. She was not able to compete with Platner. And so now we have the matchup of Platner versus Collins. We'll have to see how that plays out. Now, when it comes to Platner, he has some baggage. So we'll have to see if he's able to overcome that. Looking at the latest polling, Platner is well ahead of Collins, and he was also well ahead of Mills, and that's could be one of the reasons why she decided to drop out. Now, she did indicate that it's just right now it's impossible for her to raise money, and part of the reason why it's probably impossible for her to raise money is because she's not doing well in the polling. And a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a video and I was talking about Janet Mills versus Platner. And one of the things that I mentioned was her age. I think she's 78. Now, Platner, he's in his 40s. And I think you had some voters looking at that, the fact that she's 78. The reality is if she won the Senate seat, she would be there for maybe one term. Whereas Platner, he's in his 40s, so he can serve several terms. And so I want to break this down by taking a look at the polling, and then we're going to take a look at the Senate map. We'll look at Maine, because Maine is one of those states that's a must-win for Democrats. And I think Democrats right now, just looking at the latest polling, Democrats have an advantage. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. And so let's take a look at the latest polling. We're using 270 to win. First thing I want to take a look at is the prediction market. So you have Kalshi here. And one of the good things about prediction markets when we're looking at these different races, it's instant. So in this situation, Janet Mills is now at 0% to win because she dropped out, and Platner is at 97% to win. And so that's something that you're not going to get from polling, because when you're doing polling, it takes a little bit of time. You have to poll people and ask them the question. Then you have to calculate all the numbers and then put that on a spreadsheet or put that on a web page and then present that. So when it comes to the prediction market, it's instant. And now look at the prediction market when it comes to Maine Senate winner. It's showing Democrats at 70%, Republicans at 31%. And so you see in the prediction market, it's showing that Democrats will win in Maine. And so now let's look at some of the latest polling. So the first thing we're going to look at, we'll look at the average here. So they're averaging the last three polls. You have Platner at 53%. You have Mills at 31.3%. And then looking at the Maine People's Resource Center, it's showing this was conducted on 4/7/2026. 514 likely voters. You have Platner at 61%. You have Mills at 28%. Emerson, this was conducted on 3/26/2026. You have 530 likely voters, margin of error plus or minus 4.2. You have Platner at 55%. Mills at 28%. Quantus Insight, and this was conducted on 3/9/26, 450 likely voters. You have Platner at 43. You have Mills at 38. And so you see, I mean, this on down the line, Platner he's leading in all the polls except for this Pan Atlantic poll, but this was back in December. And so looking at recent polling, and even if you go back further, you see that Platner pretty much won every poll except for one. And so this is the major reason why Janet Mills decided to drop out. One, she wasn't polling well, and because she wasn't polling well, she wasn't able to raise money, and so she decided to drop out. Now, Janet Mills, she was the candidate that if you want to say the Senate Democrats wanted, okay, or at least leadership. They wanted Janet Mills. They think that Janet Mills would be a better candidate than Platner. However, the voters in Maine, they were saying something different. They wanted Platner. Even though Platner's had some issues in the past, and we'll have to see how that plays out in the general election, they still wanted Platner over Mills. And so we could be seeing the Democratic Party changing. They want new voices. They want people that aren't career politicians. We could see that in the future. We don't know exactly yet, but in Maine, it's pretty clear the voters want Platner over Mills. Okay, now let's see how Platner would do against Collins in the general election, because this is where it really gets important. Because if Democrats want to win the Senate seat, their best bet right now, according to polling, their best bet is with Platner. And let me just show you here. So if we look at the average of the last three polls, you have Platner at 49%, you have Collins at 41.7%. So a huge lead. Platner has a huge lead over Collins if you average the last three polls. Echelon Insights conducted on 4/21/26, 378 likely voters, margin of error is plus or minus 6.3%. So you see the sample size is very small. It is likely voters, so that's good. But look at that margin of error, plus or minus 6.3. That's large. But we're looking at Platner at 51%, Collins at 45%, and then 4% other. The Maine People's Resource Center conducted on April 7, 2026, 1,167 likely voters, margin of error plus or minus 2.9%. You have Platner at 48, you have Collins at 39, you have other at 13%. Emerson College poll, this was conducted on 3/26/2026, 1,075 likely voters, margin of error plus or minus 2.9%. You have Platner at 48, you have Collins at 41, we have other at 11%. And then on Message, this was conducted on 3/10/2026, 600 likely voters, plus or minus 4%, margin of error. You have Platner at 44, Collins at 42, other at 14, and you just go down the list. I mean, you see that Platner is leading in all of these polls. All the latest polling is showing Platner is leading. This goes all the way back to November 12th of 2025. And if you want to compare that to what we were looking at with Mills, you see some of the same polling here. If you look at the average, you had Mills at 45.3%, you had Collins at 44.7%. So this is pretty much a toss-up at this point. You have Echelon Insights conducted on April 21st, 2026, 378 likely voters, margin of error there, 6.3%. So all the same there. You had Mills at 48, you had Collins at 46. And then we have the Maine People's Resource Center, 1,167 likely voters, margin of error plus or minus 2.9%. So you have Mills at 42%, and then you had Collins winning here at 45%. And so you see it's showing this polling very, very close. I mean, 42, you have 46 here for Mills, so she was up a little bit. You had Collins winning in this Qantas Insight poll at 45% to 43%. So Mills wasn't showing the same numbers that we were seeing coming from Platner. And so now we move to the general election. So now we can start really looking at this race. And if we pull up the Senate map, this is why Maine is a must win for Democrats, because right now you have Democrats and independents at 47, Republicans at 53. Democrats have opportunities to flip a few seats. One of those seats is North Carolina. I think they have a really good shot with Roy Cooper. And Maine right now, you see Platner is ahead. And so if Democrats flip North Carolina and Maine, you have Democrats at 49, Republicans at 51. So Democrats would need to flip two more seats to take back control of the Senate. But it's going to have to go through Maine. And because of the latest polling and the fact that Collins does appear to be struggling, Platner has a chance to win. If Platner can win in Maine, if Roy Cooper can win in North Carolina, if we see a situation where Peltola can win in Alaska, then Democrats need to win either in Ohio, Iowa, or Texas, and they would take back control of the Senate. And so that's why it's very important that Democrats do well in Maine. But now I want to pass it off to you. Do you think this was a good situation? Do you think it was good that Mills dropped out? Do you want Platner to run against Collins over Mills running against Collins? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.